Greetings and God bless. It's Pastor Mike. Ladies and gentlemen, Beau York here, not Tyler Burns. I know you are so very sad. I'm sad too. You know what? I kind of wish Tyler Burns was on the mic right now. Wait, no, I'm actually thrilled. Not that Tyler isn't here, but because I am sitting right across the table from Ryan Gentry.
It's Pastor Mike's favorite bench player here.
Yeah.
Ready to step up whenever the moment requires it.
See, that used to be me, so I don't even know how to feel about that. But you're not wrong. You're absolutely not wrong.
I'm getting that 6-man contract, I promise.
You know what this is? This is behind the mic. That's really kind of what this is. Because
It kind of is, yeah.
Yeah, you and I, like, that's our gig. You, of course, the video producer, myself, I guess the audio / executive producer / something extraordinaire. I don't know. I've gotten titles before.
You do it all, man. So, besides video.
Well,
me, but
this is true. There's always been a tension between audio and visual. I mean, like, you know, in the behind the scenes.
Has there been tension? I feel like we're two amazing halves of a wonderful
now,
production sandwich.
Now we are. I think, like, you know, early on is like, okay, all right, new guy coming in. What's he gonna do? He's got all this equipment, and I feel intimidated all of a sudden. That was kind of the early days.
I envied how like easy your travel system was. The mics and everything is so
Right.
nice to set up. You have a couple of cases and I'm like sweating pulling all this equipment through the airport trying to get out here. So
yeah, that is nice. I'm not gonna lie. Man, okay, so you've been with us for when did you come on board?
oh goodness. 2021?
That can't be right. Is that right?
22?
Okay.
21? I think it's 21.
Yeah. Okay. Like just in that post-pandemic,
Right.
in the now times.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is the era of Ryan Gentry to some extent for Past the Mic.
You have BRG and ARG. Yeah.
Well, it's been great, man, because, you know, as with so many folks who've been able to lend their voice to the show over time, you bring your own perspective, you bring a lot of context. And one of the things I really appreciate about the fact that you came on when you did is prior to working on the show, you were a listener.
Yeah, I was. I listened in college. It was recommended to me by one of my InterVarsity leaders at the time. And yeah, I think I saw on Instagram, the way I started working with y'all was I just saw on Instagram, you're like, anybody want to help out with the show? And I was like, I would love to help out with the show. You guys don't do video. I do video.
I feel like I was constantly pushing us back then, like we just to go out on the Facebook group or something, like just tell people we need help.
Yeah.
So I love that worked eventually, and we got somebody who's absolutely incredible with the work that you do. So man, we're happy to have you. Okay, so you know, people who have not had the opportunity to listen to your episodes, which they absolutely should, some of the best episodes of Past the Mic, got to check them out.
Wow.
Anything with Ryan Gentry, just pause now, go back, listen to those episodes. Well worth your time. You got to absolutely do it. But for those that may or may not know, you grew up in the church.
I did, yeah. Church, grew up in church, grew up in private Christian school. Very, very, very American Christian upbringing.
Yeah. So we're going to talk a little bit about kind of American Christian upbringing.
Yes, we are.
And the kind of the media energy or engine that kind of surrounds that. Because, I mean, at this point, we are kind of in that media space in the modern context.
We are, yeah.
But like back in the day, like, do you remember what your first like Christian Sunday school-esque either direct to DVD, movie, television series, what was that for you?
Dude, it was, I can't pinpoint it exactly, but it was 98% probably Veggie Tales.
Oh,
yeah.
man.
I was probably jamming to some silly songs with Larry.
Broccoli,
You know? Yeah.
celery. Yeah.
Where's my hairbrush? All that kind of stuff. Yeah. For sure, it's got to be Veggie.
So I need to understand this because we'll just acknowledge this. There's an age difference here by about 10 years or so.
Yeah.
Probably a bit more than that. Anyway, point is.
We'll go with 10.
Yeah, well, let's go with 10. Your first experience with VeggieTales was streaming? Movies?
No. Oh my
television?
goodness, no.
What is that?
I
What is
had
that for you?
VHS tapes.
Okay, you had the VHS tapes. At the house?
I was born in 97.
Okay.
So that's still like early 2000s.
Yeah.
We were still doing VHS tapes. And then it was DVDs. Like,
Okay.
But
See, this is what you need to understand. Like for us, like VeggieTales was what was sent to like our youth groups. And that's like what we watched specifically at youth group was VeggieTales.
yeah.
And
we had home movie. I had VeggieTales like video games too.
okay, hang on.
They were in industry by the time I was.
See, this is what I'm talking about. Because I'm like, well, I remember the early days of like the first VeggieTales direct to DVD. No, I'm sorry, direct to VHS movie.
Yeah.
And like they would send it in, and like the youth group would watch it and everything else. The P's, because this is back when CG CGI wasn't quite as like.
Dude, I thought it was the groundbreaking animation at the time.
At the time?
And you go back and you watch those now, and it looks rough.
It's like classic video games where like
Yeah.
the main human character has a flat face type situation.
Wow, NBA 2001 it looks like I'm actually there.
Yeah.
And then, no, it doesn't.
I remember as a kid though being like, because this was like the early days of CGI, so you had like Reboot. I don't know if that was a television show you were ever aware of.
No.
Or Transformers Beast Wars. Okay, I'm losing you fast. Anyway, point is,
sorry.
there was a lot of like it was early days where CGI was starting to catch on in a lot of this media, and so VeggieTales was really fascinating. There was this element of like this new technology. There was this element of these pop culture references, a lot of Monty Python kind of like slid in there, and then these Bible stories told from the standpoint of these vegetables, and it was very geared towards Sunday school until it wasn't just geared towards Sunday school. It kind of became mainstream.
Yeah.
Like to the point where
there was a theatrical release, right? Their Jonah movie or whatever was in theaters. I think I saw it.
Or wasn't it the pirates who don't do anything or something like that?
Yeah, they
or?
were in I think they were in the Jonah movie.
Okay,
I remember. Yeah.
This point,
I think.
this point, I had aged out. I was no longer the target market.
Yeah, I for sure was. We talked about it at my school and everything. I think we had a screening at my school probably.
Yeah,
a bunch of Christian elementary school kids. That's like the VeggieTales are the thing.
What's fascinating to me,
they're like our minions.
So, but that's the thing. What's fascinating to me is even the concept of our minions. I feel like you go to anybody in America and they're going to know what the VeggieTales are. You know what I mean? Like it has gotten that big because there's something about as kind of Christian media grows. I guess if it's successful, it kind of goes beyond that. Like it starts off in these kind of like niche areas and then kind of finds its way in multiple sources.
And it's a curious pathway as well because you're looking at something that started maybe as a teaching tool that further evolved into a entertainment product.
Right.
And that's a whole Pandora's box that you're opening there of like children that are raised in the church being raised on scripture and Bible stories needing to be entertaining versus needing to be educational.
Interesting.
And how do you strike that balance?
Yes. We had a lot of movies, like a lot of VHS tapes of like, you know, kind of a dude in like a knit collared shirt sitting there with like kids around him with a guitar and singing various Bible songs in that sort of thing. There was one called Gerbert, which was like a puppet.
Oh my gosh.
Guy. I don't know. It was,
they were trying everything.
I'm digging
for
deep.
y'all.
It was Salty the Singing Songbook. Tyler, do you remember Salty the Singing Songbook? Okay, thank you. Google Salty the Singing Songbook. You will find some very terrifying imagery of
prepare yourself.
Some like, don't get me wrong, in like one feature film that's broadly uncomfortable for a lot of different reasons, but like there is like some Jim Henson-esque puppetry going on with that costume. In other situations, it's a dude in blueface that doesn't always look like Blueface in this giant like songbook type situation.
It's artifact for sure.
It's rough.
Yeah.
It's very rough, but I remember that it was a very defining a piece of media back in the day. But what's interesting is that we had kind of growing up in these kind of Christian circles, evangelical circles and everything. You have like a media that's kind of built for you. And it's interesting. You point this out. There's a teaching element to this. But then there's also this entertainment element because, especially during that era, there was kind of this mindset of like, you know, creating a non-secular entertainment industry.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But then as you grow up, as you kind of go through, there's an entire media pipeline for a lot of different Christian content. So I'm kind of wondering, like, as you're kind of growing up and kind of moving out, I know that you're a massive fan of, for example, Christian films. You and Jamar had a great conversation about this.
Yeah, we did. Yeah, I think Christian films are one of those places that people pick up on when it comes to Christian media and entertainment. In this social media age, though, Christian entertainment and content are sort of fused together again, a la VeggieTales. Like, you go on TikTok or Instagram, everybody, like Christian influencers and content creators and that thing. I feel like that's a whole new evolution of something that we like grew up consuming. It looks very different now, and I'm not really sure how I feel about it.
So when you say that it's evolved and that it kind of hits you a kind of way, where's this bridge for you? Like where does it come from? Like when does it come from just kind of like infotainment? Because I mean, there's an argument to be said here that that's kind of what some of this stuff is, into doing it for the clicks. Because I mean, is that not right? I mean, like at some point, are we just doing it for the clicks?
Yeah. Yeah. I think with social media and participation in social media comes like the buy-in is a desire to be famous, to be seen, just culturally. And even if that's not your motivation, it's usually somehow forced on you one way or another. If you're desiring, even if you're a consumer, I feel like you just watch people get famous, and then maybe there's something in you that goes, well, I kind of wish I kind of want like a cool video that a bunch of people get to see. I want people to know who I am. I want to make a funny joke in the comments and that sort of thing.
Okay, so I feel like there's a bridge here, right? Or like there's like a connection point of missing, like if you will. And that is this notion that Christians largely are like a media segment, right? Like are like a marketing segment. Right. And I feel like classic, industry means so many different things right now. But if you think about like the Passion of the Christ, that was a massive moment in entertainment history, because for the first time since I don't know how long, Hollywood recognized like
10 Commandments, probably.
Oh, maybe 10 Commandments. But even then, 10 Commandments wasn't really made for a church audience, like for a religious audience. Right. So, it was this big, epic classic. It was of the genre and of the era.
Yeah.
The Passion of the Christ was made with like this kind of agenda in mind. I don't mean like, and I'm not trying to say agenda in like a bad terms. I'm using that in a neutral thing. Yeah. But the reality was there was like a mindset,
a desired message,
who this was for, what that was for. There was an energy behind it that almost like a crusade behind this movie, right? And there was an invitation for churches, for Christians to get in on this crusade to really make this the biggest movie ever. You had churches buying out movie theaters, like tickets were being bought. It was like 50 Cent buying out a Ja Rule concert. Like, the seats weren't filled, but the tickets were bought. So, I mean, like it was there. Anyway, point is.
Oh, no. Like opposite motivations there.
A little different. But my point is that like there was this massive marketing campaign that was not heavily funded. You know what I mean? Like you didn't have to put in a ton of money to get Christians to show up to get behind something, and you could make a killing. You could make a ton of money. And Hollywood started to recognize like, oh, well, this is very interesting.
Yeah.
This is a cash cow industry that we need to tap into. And so I wonder if to some extent, kind of fast forwarding into the now, where we are kind of in this space where, okay, I want to start a TikTok, I want to start an Instagram channel, whatever it may be. I want to kind of become an influencer in a space. Well, if I know the right things to say, there is an entire market segment that's ready to get behind it. And I can't help but feel like a lot of people making content, maybe they're not making that direct connection, but it seems very similar to that same framework of like, oh, this is a market segment that's ready to get behind me, ready to do this, ready, whatever it may be.
It's interesting because I feel like yes, to an extent that's true, but instead of some sort of financial reward, the goal is social capital.
Well, that is the financial reward of the modern age, right?
It is, but also because there's so many different kinds. I don't know what kind of sponsorship money, Christian influencers are pulling in.
Ooh,
and especially if some like, a 22-year-old on TikTok is giving, exegetical 20-second videos. I think the draw there is like, I think people are pursuing a translation, a reading, an interpretation, a gospel message that is just right for them and devoid of tension. And because you have sort of the echo chamber effect of social media, you have all of these people that are, in a sense, acting almost as like, we have micro celebrities, like the era of the micro celebrity. We have like micro pastors, basically, on social media now that you can scroll through and you can find the exact, we'll call it denomination that gels with you 100%, that doesn't have anything upsetting, that doesn't have anything challenging in it. And you can just choose to live there and choose like, well, this is where my faith is based now. This is like the faith I've found that's comfortable. And I think that's more of the issue than sort of like a media machine, because it's not a conglomerate. It's not a syndicate. It's a bunch of these different people that all have a different message. Christian nationalism is bad. Christian nationalism is good. Here's the meaning of this word in the Bible. This word's not in the Greek. This word is in the Greek. This word, you know?
Right.
And there's no there's not even like an institutional in the best faith reading. There's not like an institutional board of directors that go, this isn't going to be profitable. Careful with this message. It's just a lot of individuals that can go all in on one thing and gain as many people that are willing to listen in their community because of that.
Interesting. Okay, we're going to be unpacking that a lot more here in just a minute. First, we're going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with Ryan Gentry.
A quick break for Silly Songs with Larry.
No.
Yeah. A part of the show where Larry comes out and sings a silly song.
And now it's time for Jamar Tisby to promote Justice Takes Sides.
Yeah.
Well, greetings and God bless, family. This is your host of Pastor Mike, Tyler Burns, and I am so excited that we're still doing Pastor Mike 11 years after we started. Think about this. 11 years after we started, we're still doing this. And the reason why we can do it is because people like you have supported us from the beginning. We would not still be here if not for the support of people who are our patrons. And if you go to patreon.com/Pastor Mike, if this podcast has helped you in any way, shape, or form, if we've encouraged you to think more deeply about race and justice, if we've inspired you to make change right where you are, if we've been an oasis in the desert in the midst of toxic church spaces, we need your help. We need your support. For just a few dollars every single month, you can keep us going. You literally, as our listeners, keep us going. So head to patreon.com/Pastor Mike. We're passing the mic to you for your support so that we can continue doing this podcast that so many people love. Thank you so much for your support. If you are already a patron, and if you're not, just a few dollars a month. Thank you so much.
And we are back. I'm past the mic. Ryan Gentry, video editor extraordinaire. Myself, Beau York. Thank y'all so much for joining us. Tyler and Jamar will be back. It's like NPR. Like we're filling in for Michelle Norris, who's out studying the mating powers of the mating powers. Wow. No. Anyway, so we are talking about Christian media, kind of the evolution over the last several decades, and also kind of the current state that things are in. You're talking specifically about how, today there are so many opportunities for these micro pastors, I'll even throw in micro theologians, and micro influencers in the Christian space. The reality is there's a market for this.
Sure.
But at the same time, because it is like there's so much out there, we don't get a chance to see everything. You know what I mean? Like sometimes we're talking about like the overall, like, oh, there's like so much, I don't even know where to start. I feel like the way in which the algorithm hits us, we don't even get really that choice into what it is we're seeing. It's just that it gets displayed to us. Before we kind of dive more into that, I am actually kind of curious.
Okay.
Because I would imagine you are you more TikTok, Instagram? What's your poison?
I am coming off of a very long break from social media, so I think I'm getting back on Instagram.
That's right.
For stuff with my videography business. I was on TikTok for a while, but I just endless scrolling.
Right.
So I needed to take a break from that just because it got its hooks in me bad.
Well, and I left Twitter and Facebook like years ago, and so I've been off of that. But I got on.
How great is that, by the way?
It's been so nice.
A Twitterless life is a peaceful life.
It's been so nice, and I'm not uninformed. Like there are still other avenues to get the information.
You're just less angry. You know the information, but you're not upset about it 24/7.
You have a little bit of time to process some things. Not much, but you have more time than you had when you're on Twitter. So
yeah, if you're listening to this, unfollow everybody except Pass the Mic on Twitter.
Yeah. That's right. There you go. That's the one.
And Tyler Burns and Jamar Tisby.
Yeah. But follow them at your own risk, or follow Tyler at your own risk.
Yeah, there you go.
Anyway, point is that I am still on Instagram. And so I would imagine with you coming back to Instagram, like me, you were probably served up, regardless of what you're subscribed to, a good, serving of Christian videos, or like videos aimed at either nostalgia, education, kind of where you are. I'm kind of curious
Right.
for you. Well, I'll just share for me first. Like for me, what typically comes up are kind of humorous throwback 90s nostalgia, kind of Christian experience type stuff. And it's great. It's hilarious. It's like, oh man, this is, yeah, I remember this. As well as these micro theological kind of biblical studies, debates of like, this person said this. Now this person's talking over what that person just said. Now this other person is now talking over that person who's arguing with that person about what the other person. It's like, okay, guys, like you
have to cut through a forest to find what the original take was that everybody's discussing.
Maybe I'm getting old, but I'm like, can you guys just all get in the same room and just talk it out? Like,
Right.
This is getting a little. Sometimes I'll talk about the guy, and it's like I'm talking about your video from here, but now I'm talking about you talking about my video from here. But we're using clips from everything. Thank God everybody's wearing different shirts.
And that's the issue, right? Like I feel like these sort of discussions or debates, if I want to use,
it's not a debate, but
they used to happen in context.
Right.
Like, everybody would be sitting there at the same time going, here's this passage of scripture, here's what we think about it, or here's like our takeaway. And now you could be scrolling and come across argument or point 14 in a 37 point long debate over a verse that's not even in this video, so you don't even know what people are talking about. It's so fragmented, and you can't consume it linearly, so you can't walk from one point to the next. And if you see someone you recognize that you're like, oh, I like that guy's or that girl's other videos, I have to agree with them on this,
right?
Like that, because they're against that the bad like influencers that I saw earlier,
right?
And it's just like so fragmented, and you don't even know what it gets messy.
It can get kind of messy. What does the algorithm serve you up? I'm kind of curious.
Oh geez, I'll go off of my my YouTube algorithm, since that's, I think, I don't know if I would consider it social media, but maybe like a content platform.
Lately, that's been all like King of the
most.
Hill clips for me for some
Really?
reason. I think it's because I'm in Texas now. I don't know.
It throws me like Batman clips all the time.
Wait, which Batman though?
Just every animated. If there's ever been an animated,
Where are the other drugs going? Sorry.
Yeah, if there's ever been an animated Batman feature, I have seen between 12 and 17 seconds of it. Like just a cool line. I don't know.
Fantastic. So, Kevin Conroy, man, rest in peace.
Rest in peace. What a phenomenal voice. Best Batman. Anyway,
what Kevin Conroy?
Besides the Church of Batman, I would say YouTube throws me a lot of. I feel like it doesn't know what denomination I am. Which, welcome to the club, YouTube. It's always like, here's like a really like alpha male heavy Catholic thought video on like and I'm like, yeah, sure. I don't really watch. I don't need to know that I'm supposed to be like a warrior or whatever.
Interesting.
Like I'm good, you know. And it's like
modern day Wild at Heart. All right.
Yeah, kind of. Or it's like, okay, here's just like a fun prayer, like worship mix. And I'm like, okay, that's good. That's worship. You know, that's classic. I don't get a lot of like theological content anymore, just because I don't tend to consume that stuff like via influencers. I try to actually be in the same room with somebody where I can discuss these things,
right,
rather than like be a consumer.
I do wonder about like, because there is this kind of, again, there's so much content that's out there, it's hitting people at different places because the algorithm is really kind of serving it up for different things. It's latching on to, oh, this guy likes this, so he must like this, whatever it may be. And there's less of like a shared like understanding and experience. I mean, I know you get like the 1% that rises to the top in these spaces that like everybody sees.
Yeah.
But like, there's stuff like from the 90s in a pre-internet age, at least not, to the extent that we are now. Like my wife was in the Midwest. She was in Grand Rapids, Michigan. I was in Jackson, Mississippi. And yet we have so many shared cultural experiences of like, oh, remember how we all thought this or believed this or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And yet for something, for as we navigate social media, because there's not those avenues or because there's not those gatekeepers that kind of define what is going to be the narrative. On the one hand, that's really good.
Yeah, it's beautiful in terms of access and like community, and people that maybe are afraid to walk through the doors of a church still get to hear the gospel.
Sure.
That's my optimistic good faith reading of that. On the other hand, I feel like weirdly enough, this is like almost like a really strong case for the denominational model.
Interesting.
Just because there's no accountability for any Like these people aren't ordained a lot of the time, which is fine. It can just be a person sharing their thoughts. But I think just the nature, either intentionally or unintentionally, the nature of that interaction puts them in a place of authority. And there's nobody that's checking their authority. There's comments, but you're a tiny drop in a large pond of everybody going, no, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Don't listen to these haters. And I'm like, no, it's like if the hater is bringing like, hey, actually, I think this is not biblical or whatever. That's again, a discussion that should be happening in person, but it's not. It's mediated anonymously online with a person that might not be walking in authority, or it feels, again, that messiness that we were talking about.
So it almost kind of brings to mind an imagery of like a street filled with street pastors that are all shouting at each other.
Oh yeah,
and people going by.
That's a great image.
And people going, but the people they say they want to reach are just going by because they can't even mess with it. And even if they pay attention just long enough so that they can get a box and become a street pastor themselves. You see what I'm saying? So like, there's not really a lot of anything productive. Oh, I mean, that's an I'm probably coming at this from a much more uncharitable, because I am a little bit older. So that's probably part of it. But I do wonder, I don't know, like I do also see, like, for example, growing up in the 90s, there was like a very strong, very evangelical, conservative kind of purity culture path and package that was sold and did a ton of harm for an entire generation of people.
And it would have been amazing to have somebody in that space that you could have heard go, actually, I don't know if this is, like, if there was permission for someone to come along and say that.
If there was even space, right? Because
exactly.
because there was like such a very kind of controlled path, and like who we're kind of putting on, giving platforms to and everything else. Yeah. There was very a controlled message with a very clear kind of specific idea of what was trying to be accomplished there. And in the interim, a lot of people got on board, a lot of people got hurt. And that you could use that for a lot of different kind of movements, especially in that era. Now you kind of think about it, movements broadly speaking, and I mean, you can push back on this, but it seems as though movements broadly speaking don't really catch on and do anything of effectiveness, good or ill. You know what I mean? Like there may be like these like micro pushes for something, be it good or bad, but they don't really catch on. So it's hard for me to argue that that's like too bad of a thing, because again, I know, as I've seen the damage that it can happen, but there is also like, this is damaging because it's so effective. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Movement wise, I would agree with you that I don't think you can gain momentum as much. I do think the beautiful thing here is ultimately people are discovering and maybe finding a relationship with Jesus through this system. And I think that is ultimately like a beautiful, wonderful, really good thing. I think in terms of like church mobilization, like universal big church, like global church mobilization, it's quite fragmenting, because like I said, the echo chamber thing, everybody has their specific authority figure that they'll go to. And what that means is like you create a spiritual environment that's devoid of tension and actually very tension adverse.
Right.
You don't want to listen to a take you might disagree with, so you'll leave that influencer because you don't like, it makes you uncomfortable, and you'll go find one that has every checked box and no. Yeah. So I feel like that's creating that's
very interesting. Even if that person is making some terrible points, you're not even sitting there to wrestle with why those are terrible points.
It is like the effect of with any, honestly, politically, philosophically, theologically. That's like the nature of social media, is get away from what upsets you, or like join everybody that you agree with in being angry at something that upsets you. Yeah. But for your safe, like vulnerable communities, get away from anything that might raise an eyebrow and like get to the umbrella, get to the shelter. There should be a safe place to explore those ideas. Absolutely. But it worries me that a lot of people are turned away from and afraid of tension. I think tension is something that we should be leaning into together, safely, respectfully, honoring people that disagree with us. And also don't wrestle with like hateful ideas, like that. There's a line, but I think take a breath before shutting down something you disagree with. And I think that doesn't really happen. It's just like, oh, gross, I'm out of here, and then you disappear.
No, I mean, that's good. And you touch on something that I think is probably the most important thing, is that like all this, and I say this as somebody who grew up where the religion was mostly arguing theology,
right,
more than anything else. Even though at its core, what we're really overlooking, what's really at the heart of this, is following Christ. Like
absolutely.
And so when it's all said and done, be it like taking people from any kind of religious segment, turning them into a marketing segment, or seeing any kind of opportunity to extend your platform here, there, everywhere. Ultimately, even if your motivations are good, at some point you're just fated to get away from the point, which is to be following Christ in the first place.
Yeah,
and I don't think Christ ever said, "Follow me."
Hit that follow button. Hit the like button. Exactly. Make sure you hit the bell. Yeah,
ring that bell to be notified.
Yeah. I would also just say, like, if someone is listening to this, that's
I don't know. Hang on, an argument could be made. I was like, I don't know. It was like, hey, maybe unfollow everybody else. Give up all. Maybe it's give up all your followers to follow me.
Give up all your followers and come and follow me.
Yeah, there might be something to that. I don't know.
Unsubscribe and come and follow me.
Right. Smash that like button.
Oh man. Yeah. What I was gonna say is, if someone has like started
smash that like button, like Peter smashed that centurion's ear.
I thought it was a priestly guard's like priest servant or something.
Sorry, I'm mixing and matching here for the joke. I apologize.
No, you're good.
All right, let's bring the sacrilegiousness down a little bit, and yes, bring us on home.
Yeah, I think if anybody has started a relationship with Jesus through these mediums, I think that's awesome. Praise God for that. Like that. You found an environment where you felt safe, loved, and encouraged enough that you want to learn more about Christ. I think I would also encourage those people to find someone in person, geographically close to you if possible, that you can meet up with and that will disciple you. Somebody that is probably older than you, a safe person, but like start to build community outside of just being online. Because that is where like growth happens. You learn and you grow closer to the Lord through walking through life, and not just consuming.
No, this is good.
It's not just about consuming content. It's about that helps you grow in wisdom a lot of times, sure. But I think going out there and doing the practical, the real, having conversations, wrestle with stuff. That's like we are supposed to wrestle with these things.
Yeah.
And I think that will bring immense growth, more so than as many. If the social media teachings are like your safe place where you feel like you can recharge, make sure you have a in-person, real-life, non-anonymous community that you can go to as well, because that will be where you need to flee to or need to go to in times of crisis. Like the hundreds and hundreds of like anonymous names in a comment section can be good for finding people, like to confirm a place that's safe for you, but you do need those, like that real community if you're physically able to get it.
That's good. And I think it's learning from both ends, right? Like
absolutely.
It's the now, like you've got all of these different kind of micro digital interactions. No, you need actual community with people of your shared faith. It's like, but also don't fall back into the 90s model where that's the only community you have.
Oh, for sure.
So it's a bit of a both.
Wrestle.
Yeah, I like that.
Wrestle. If it's devoid of conflict, you're probably missing some stuff. You might be blind to some stuff.
Man, that's right. Well, hey, smash that like button and be sure to hit that bell. The irony of the nature of the conversation.
I know, right? It's again, I wrestle with that, right? Because we participate, yet, yeah.
Well, no, to be honest, I was kind of planning on going into some of that from our own personal experience with Pastor Mike, but the reality is we're out of time. So I guess we'll have to do that. Veggie Tales to TikTok. That's what we got for Christian media from we'll get a behind the mic. Yeah,
we'll get a sequel. They're usually better than the original, and they print money.
There you go.
There's
hey, follow Ryan Gentry though on Instagram since you're back. What is it again?
I gotta start a business one. I don't have one yet.
You don't have one?
It'll be like Gentry Media or something. Right. We'll see.
Like keep an eye out for Gentry Media, unless that's not him, in which case don't follow.
Yeah, don't follow him. But yeah, I mean, you don't need to follow me.
So all the social links are in the description, all that kind of good stuff. Tyler and Jamar, I'm sure we'll be back next week. That's gonna do it for us for this week. But until next time, we'll see you again on the next
Pass the Mic.
Behind the Mic.
Behind the Mic.
Yeah.
Pass the Mic is powered by The Witness, a Black Christian collective, and hosted by Tyler Burns and Dr. Jamar Tisby. Our video editor is Ryan Gentry, and our executive producer is Beau York. We want to thank the Converge Podcast Network for providing advertising support for this podcast. If you'd like to advertise your product or services on this and other shows, be sure to visit convergepodcasts.com for more information. Don't forget to like, subscribe, review, and share this podcast. And until next time, we'll see you soon on the next Pass the Mic.